Bom dia, pessoal. Sejam todos bem-vindos a mais uma transmissão do nosso canal UPTV com UPTV in Space. Hoje, então, trazendo para vocês a nova tentativa de lançamento da missão JUICE com a Arianespace com o veículo Ariane 5. Ontem tivemos a nossa primeira tentativa, mas devido então ao problema com as nuvens, como estamos tendo hoje também, tivemos aí o problema de hold e depois burp. Aí tivemos o cancelamento. Acreditamos que hoje possivelmente também, talvez, devido aí pelas condições climáticas, como a gente pode observar no local, né? Talvez tenhamos, não sei, talvez tenhamos scrub, mas eu acredito que não. O horário então do lançamento previsto para acontecer às 9h47 da manhã, no horário de Brasília, tá? Hoje pela madrugada também tivemos a tentativa de lançamento da missão Transporter 7 da SpaceX, lá na base de Vandenberg, na Califórnia, porém também devido a questões climáticas no local, também não tivemos lançamento, né? Tivemos também o aporte da missão Transporter 7, que foi transferido para amanhã, dia 15, a partir das 3h40 da madrugada, tá? Então, tem o link aí da nossa transmissão também. E no dia 15 também, a partir das 11h40 da manhã, nós vamos acompanhar aí a parte então da desacoplagem da missão CRS 27 lá na Estação Espacial Internacional. A gente só vai acompanhar apenas a desacoplagem, né? Pois como é uma missão de carga, então a gente não vai acompanhar o splashdown, né? Que está previsto para acontecer também no mesmo dia lá na Flórida, na costa da Flórida. Então vamos seguir aí, né, com a transmissão da missão da JUICE, né, missão Rumo a Júpiter, as duas de Galileu, de Júpiter, né, a Ganymedes, Callisto e Europa. A missão dessa da ESA, né, com a Arianespace. E vamos aguardar então ver as novas atualizações aí sobre a questão climática, né, que isso então atrasa aí o cronograma, né, do lançamento. Vamos seguir então acompanhando aqui no nosso canal, que vocês não perdem nenhuma informação, certo? Então vamos seguir acompanhando aí as imagens ao vivo, então direto da Guiana Francesa. Lembrando que esse cronômetro que está aí, né, é referente então ao início da transmissão lá da oficial da ESA. Tá então previsto para acontecer daqui a pouquinho às 8h45, 11h45 no horário internacional, tá? Então esse cronômetro é referente ao horário do início da transmissão oficial da ESA, tá? O horário do lançamento está previsto então para as 9h47. Isso se não tiver nenhum problema aí com a questão do tempo, né? Estamos aguardando novas informações, mas a princípio então tudo tranquilo para o lançamento hoje. Se tudo ocorrer bem, né, com o lançamento hoje, o tempo previsto para a duração dessa missão de hoje, né, é de 27 minutos. Até então, o deploy da JUICE. E aí, após 1 hora, né, de missão, nós vamos ter aí a confirmação da abertura dos painéis solares. Sonda JUICE. E vai viajar, então, depois aí até Júpiter. E aí, portanto, damos início então à transmissão oficial junto com a ARIANESPACE. Missão JUICE. Road to Space. Direto então da Guiana Francesa. E aí, portanto, estamos de volta mais uma vez.
Ariane 5 is now ready for launch here at Europe's spaceport in French Guiana, with her single passenger, the Jupiter Icy Moons Explorer, JUICE, safe and sound under the fairing. Liftoff is scheduled in just under half an hour. I'm right here in the aptly named Jupiter control room. This is the nerve center of today's mission, and you can see here on the other side of this protective glass, which we call the fishbowl here in Kourou, you can see the teams working hard on the last preparations towards today's mission. Opposite me here we have the partners, VIPs and guests all comfortably seated and waiting for liftoff. And with me right here,
deixa eu só confirmar o horário aqui.
CEO of Arianspace. Welcome, Stefan.
Good morning, please.
Thank you very much. So we're back here together. Can you first of all maybe tell me, 24-hour delay, what was the reason for this delay yesterday?
So very simple. The launcher was ready, JUICE was ready, the launch was ready, but the weather was not with us. You know, we have to monitor.
Eles modificaram então o horário para
high altitude winds, and it was okay,
mais cedo então.
Lightning yesterday was a real risk.
27 minutos para o lançamento, não às 9h45. Imaginava anteriormente.
But of course, as we always say, better be safe than sorry. JUICE can absolutely afford to wait another day under the fairing. Not a problem.
Yes, for sure, because you know that once we will have done our job after 27 minutes, and once we will have orbited JUICE on an escape orbit, then it will be the start of an 8-year journey. So one day is nothing as compared to what we have ahead of us. We will monitor the weather now in the final minutes. The teams have worked all night. All is red up to now, so we are now... All is green up to now.
Então são 28 minutos aí para o lançamento. Tá tudo verde aí, all is green.
It's going to bring us very good luck.
Yes, all is green. And so at 9:14 we will lift off.
At 9:14 we'll lift off. Thank you so much, Stefan, and fingers crossed, good luck for today. And we'll see you later. Thank you so much, Stefan. And Stefan is getting a round of applause in here in Jupiter. Of course, an emotion which is easy to understand, obviously, considering the conditions of yesterday's delay. But everything is fine, safe and sound under the fairing, as we said. So, as the teams working here in Jupiter Control, more than 7,000 kilometers away over the Atlantic at ESA's Mission Control Center in Darmstadt, Germany, we have the teams there who will take over control of the aircraft once it separates from the mothership. And we're going to go
falta 25 minutos aí para o lançamento, hein, pessoal?
How things are looking over there in Darmstadt.
Então aí o lançamento mais cedo, né, do que a gente previu. Não será então às 9h47, né?
And hello to all our watchers. Welcome to ESOC, the European Space Operations Centre here in Darmstadt, Germany, in the heart of mission control. I am.
Nós tivemos atualização aí do novo T0, né, às 9 para as 9h15.
In the actual control room itself. So hello Bruno, try and give us an update of what's happening in there at the moment.
Hi Matt. We're still getting goosebumps all day, although to this time a bit more cautious goosebumps. But we are ready to go. And in fact, just a few minutes ago, the flight director, Andrea Komatsu, just did the roll call and got to go from everybody here in the room. We have some footage of that, and we're going to replay it for you.
Vamos ver então agora o Go No Go. É o checklist Go No Go dos sistemas. Iniciando agora.
OM Go. Some Go. Data handling. And data handling Go. EOCS Go. Platform Go. Flight dynamics Go. Project rep Go. Project support Go. Softcode Go. Software support Go. Esta Go. Scheduling Go. Thanks. This completes the roll call for the JUICE mission.
Então concluído aí o Go No Go pool, né, para a Ariane 5. Tá tudo ok, tudo verde. Tudo liberado, então, os sistemas aí para o lançamento da Ariane 5 hoje, às 9h15.
Thank you from the teams in Darmstadt. And hey, the pressure's on. They said all we're waiting for is that rocket to take off. Well,
estamos de volta então com as imagens ao vivo, direto da Guiana Francesa.
We want to know about JUICE, and we have Mihaela Barbu from ESA who's here to tell us all about it. Mihaela, how ready is JUICE?
Good morning. JUICE is actually ready and excited to start this journey. As we speak, my colleagues are closely monitoring the satellites. So yesterday, after the launch postponement, the satellite was switched off. And slowly in the day, around 7:14 p.m., it has been turned on to start the countdown procedure. They are very close to us, a few kilometers away in LBC control room, and everyone is hoping for good weather specs.
Fantastic. So we have a bit of time to chat
Então,
about
inicialmente
this.
o horário tinha sido programado para as 9h47, né? Mas eles aí recalcularam e vai ser o lançamento às 9h15, às 9h15 da manhã, então será o lançamento da JUICE. Bom dia, Renato. Seja bem-vindo aí à nossa transmissão. Faltando aí 22 minutos para o lançamento. Vamos ver, né, se o tempo hoje ajuda, né? Por enquanto está tudo liberado aí, já foi verificado a listagem geral, né, dos sistemas, né, do Go No Go. E aí tá tudo ok então para o lançamento.
83 companies. Then you understand the complexity of project management that my colleagues and I have been performed on this mission.
And done a fantastic job so far. So this is a personal journey for you. It's 8 years, your entire professional life, because you're just a baby. So tell us how you're feeling today.
I'm very excited, and yes, JUICE is my entire career in ESA. And yesterday, as the project team, we received so much positive energy from home.
Lembrando então que o horário do lançamento hoje é às 9h15, hein?
Everyone in ESTEC, we saw you how many were there. Thank you for your support. ESAC, the people on the spaceport, we managed to see our extended.
E hoje então na madrugada tivemos também a tentativa de lançamento para a missão Transporter 7, mas devido então às condições climáticas, tivemos Scrub e a nova tentativa de lançamento para o Falcon 9 na Califórnia vai ser dado amanhã, na madrugada, com transmissão a partir das 3h40 da manhã.
Absolutely well deserved for your teams and of course all the other teams that you mentioned that have been working on this project. Thank you so much, Mihaela. Thank you. So, as Mihaela was saying, a huge amount of work from
e essa missão da JUICE, né, para quem ainda não está sabendo, né, é a missão então, que vai estudar a questão da superfície das luas de Júpiter, as luas galileanas, né, Ganymede, Callisto e Europa. Vamos ver um pouquinho então aí sobre a missão.
Today, these answers are in ESA's grasp, with the very first European mission to Jupiter, JUICE. Short for Jupiter Icy Moons Explorer, this spacecraft will explore Jupiter and 3 of its icy moons, Callisto, Europa, and in particular Ganymede. Developed and built by Airbus, JUICE's spacecraft is equipped with 10 top-of-the-line science instruments to explore the Jovian system and investigate whether some of its many environments may be suitable for the formation of life.
Então eles vão investigar a questão da superfície das luas de Júpiter, né, para encontrar a vida, né, caso bacteria. É a primeira missão desse tipo, então, da Agência Europeia.
JUICE will also study Jupiter's complex weather, chemistry and climate in detail.
Será que ela vai ter uma boa visão da Europa para ter a probabilidade de vida? Eu acredito que sim. Né? Então essa missão justamente vai fazer essa investigação nas 3 principais luas de Galileu, né, em Júpiter, justamente para investigar se é possível abrigar vida, né, por lá. Ainda mais na Europa, né? Tudo indica que na Europa probabilidades são altas, né? E tem mais chances de poder abrigar vida.
During its journey, JUICE will face many dangers such as Jupiter's intense radiation belts or its large gravitational pull. But these
18 minutos, 20 segundos para o lançamento.
The gas giant will reveal some of its many secrets in 2032 when the first data will be available. Watch this space.
So speaking of space exploration, we have 2 of the faces of human faces.
Estamos aí então no centro de controle da Guiana Francesa.
And Matthias Maurer, thank you very much, gentlemen, for being with us again today.
Não, ainda não assisti esse filme não, Renato, ainda não. Eu não vi. Mas depois dar uma procurada para ver.
What is it about sending this kind of instrument, going out to space yourselves, that helps us back here on Earth? First question to you.
Yeah, I think space exploration really in space ticks all the boxes. You've got all the short-term benefits, you know, the things that we all use, that we all have in our smartphones, the navigation, the weather report. And then you have the more medium-term, I would say, applications. The reason we know today about climate change.
Lembrando que ontem, faltando 9 minutos para o lançamento, tivemos aí aquele problema então de hold e depois scrub, para a missão da JUICE. Mas a princípio tudo indica que vamos subir, né? And it all diffuses in society on Earth and it's going to make the progress, you know, go up one step at a time. Lembrando então que o horário do lançamento está previsto para as 9h15 da manhã no horário de Brasília.
How do planets form? Where do we come from? Where are we going? Those are very important questions and those are the type of questions that we're trying to solve with those missions.
Fantastic. Well, we're talking about JUICE today that's about to lift off and go on its mission, a long, long journey. But what about human space exploration? What are the next destinations?
Well, I think the next destination is very much the moon. I mean, the next big thing in space exploration, human space exploration, is the Artemis program. ESA has a big part to play in Artemis program. We're providing the European service module to the Orion capsule. And that means one day we'll see European astronauts around the moon, on the moon.
No caso agora ele está falando sobre a missão Artemis, né? Que nós vamos enviar no ano que vem, 2024, né, 4 astronautas que já foram anunciados pela NASA, são Artemis 2, que eles vão fazer então circundar a Lua, né, a órbita da Lua. O lançamento então da missão Artemis 2 está previsto para 2024. Se não me engano, para novembro.
Are you guys getting ready to take part in these adventures?
Yes. So Thomas and I, we already flew to a lowest orbit, and flying to the moon, we need to learn more, because on the moon you need geologists. So we need to go out in the field and learn how to talk with the geologist, how to be the hands and the eyes.
15 minutos para o lançamento. Estamos aí acompanhando a missão JUICE com a Ariane 5. Da Arianespace e a Agência Espacial Europeia.
Learning all these skills, but we also need to develop facilities where we can train European astronauts what to do on the moon. And so in Cologne, we will now have the moon training facility, which will enable to do all this training over there. And it will be so good that even hopefully the NASA astronauts will come over to train there, for
9 horas no horário de Brasília. Estamos aí então ao vivo, direto da Guiana Francesa, faltando 14 minutos e 40 segundos para o lançamento. É o momento então tudo verde para a questão climática, né, e os sistemas da Ariane 5. Lembrando então que o tempo de duração desta missão é de 27 minutos até o deploy da JUICE.
Yes, we are currently in times that are really like a revolution in space. And so Europe needs to step up. And one of the big missions that we have, we need to become sovereign, to become autonomous, also with access to space for Europeans from European soil. And I think French Guiana is the ideal place to send Europeans on a European rocket in a European capsule to space. It's our big dream. Tamar and I, we would love to fly together from here to lowest orbit, but maybe even
só lembrando então a todos mais uma vez que amanhã, dia 15, a partir das 3h40 da manhã, vamos acompanhar a missão, nova tentativa da missão Transporter 7.
Soft diplomacy power, and we will see very soon that China will invite foreign astronauts to fly to their space station, and so we Europeans, we are just learning that in these times it becomes more and more important to be on level field playing, and spaceflight definitely is also an important part in the diplomacy area.
Huge thank you, Matthias. And we have with us Josef Aschbacher. You are the Director General of ESA. Thank you for joining us. So in a nutshell here, what we've been talking about is Europe's capabilities for independent launch. Are you going to make this happen? You have 15 seconds.
It's not for me to make it happen, it's all the others to make it happen, but certainly we have been working very hard on it. We have consulted
a princípio, então, tudo indica que vamos subir, né? Já estamos aí chegando quase perto daquela marca de ontem, né? Quando temos, então, fatídico aviso de hold. Mas vamos torcer para que dê tudo certo aí, que o veículo possa subir tranquilamente. 9 horas e 2 minutos, faltando então apenas menos de 12 minutos e 15 segundos para o lançamento.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Huge thank you. And to talk about JUICE, I am joined by Raphaël Chevrier from Arianspace. Raphaël is going to take us step by step all the way through every step of the mission. Raphaël.
Hello, Liz.
Hello. Welcome to Road to Space, and I'm going to let you take over from here and tell us what the next steps are.
Yes, so this morning we are launching towards the east, where we benefit from the slingshot effect given.
E aí, então vamos ver o diagrama da missão de hoje. No caso, ela vai fazer o lançamento às 9h15 e vai seguir rumo à direção a Natal, né, a base de Natal aqui no Brasil.
The two boosters have done their jobs of providing the main thrust, so we don't need them anymore. They are detached from the launcher.
Então, após 2 minutos, os boosters auxiliares vão se separar. Após 3 minutos e 10 segundos, a parte da coifa, onde fica a carga, vai se abrir.
The main stage is cut off and separated. So then the upper stage takes over, which engine
Após 8 minutos e 45 segundos, teremos então a separação do primeiro estágio com o segundo. E após 25 minutos e 23 segundos, teremos então o deploy da JUICE. No caso, 27h44, então teremos o deploy da JUICE.
JUICE is separated on a liberations orbit. It means that it will have the required speed to escape literally the gravitational pull of the Earth. Then this is almost the end of the mission from the launcher, as we still need to perform some disposal maneuvers of the upper stage, but JUICE is only beginning its journey. ESA teams will use the Norcia ground telemetry stations in Australia to acquire the signal from the spacecraft and take full control of it. 1 hour and a half after liftoff, Joule will start deploying itself like a butterfly into space. First, it will unfold the large solar panels.
E a previsão é que após 1h35, né, teremos aí a abertura dos painéis solares da sonda JUICE.
Then, in the following days, it will deploy its many antennas and probes. So the animation here doesn't depict the increasing altitude.
E após 1h40 de missão, teremos aí então a abertura dos painéis das antenas, né, da JUICE. E aí então ela seguirá viagem até Júpiter.
As Raphael was speaking, so you can see the pictures of Ariane on the launch pad. As Raphael was speaking, we hit the next milestone in our video in the chronology, which is of course
9 minutos. Passamos então da marca de ontem. Estamos tudo verde. Vocês podem observar ali na tela a parte do clima. Tudo verde. No painel ali na tela. Aí, portanto, para vocês aí, tudo verde. Vamos subir. Tudo liberado então hoje para o veículo Arianespace.
We'll talk about that in just a minute. So there's another team. You see the teams working here. Final preparation on the way here in Jupiter control, but of course there's another team at the Launch Control Center, which is much closer to the launch. It's about 3-4 kilometers to the launcher, and they've been working since last night. They've not slept. Tell us more.
Quem ainda não se inscreveu no nosso canal, o UPTV, se inscreva. Deixa o like e compartilhe aí a nossa transmissão. 8 minutos para o lançamento.
They are pressurizing the upper stage sphere.
This is them hard at work in the morning.
Exactly, and I think the images were shot this morning actually. And so it's all these operations that are leading us to the start of the synchronized sequence.
So what is this synchronized sequence, Raphael?
Well, it's a real crucial step.
You have 30 seconds.
Yeah. So I'm going to make it very quick. It's basically a succession of operations aimed at giving more and more autonomy to the launcher and to set it in its flight configuration.
Yeah, because it's an irreversible. Once we've started the synchronized sequence, we can't go back.
No, so we are going.
Absolutely. And we're going to now wait and hear.
À tous de DDO, attention pour le début de la séquence finale lanceur.
Então para a sequência de lançamento. 7 minutos. Então a sequência automática de lançamento já foi iniciada, hein?
Well, I mean, this is obviously not a magic number. This is just the time for all these last-minute operations to be performed. For example, we are topping up and pressurizing the tanks. We switch the power supply from ground to board, and only then the launcher is going to be fully awakened for launch.
Fantastic. For those who are joining us, we are 6 minutes and 20 seconds to liftoff of Ariane 5, carrying JUICE on the first leg of its journey into space and towards Jupiter. As Raphael was saying, Ariane, we were talking about this earlier, Ariane normally launches 2 passengers, but this time it's a single passenger. So can you just go quickly into what difference that makes for the launcher?
Oh, for the launcher, this is a very precious passenger, but for the launcher, it remains exactly the same. You have the 2 lateral boosters, you have the main stage, you have the upper stage, 1 fairing. We are also launching towards the east, which is the same direction as
Estamos então aí a menos de 6 minutos para o lançamento, 9 horas e 9 minutos. No horário de Brasília. Estamos então acompanhando os momentos finais aí do lançamento da missão JUICE. Até o momento então tudo verde. Já iniciamos também a sequência automática do lançamento, quando atingimos a marca então de 7 minutos. E aí estamos vendo a vinheta aí da preparação do lançamento. desde a chegada então das partes do Ariane 5, né, para montagem na plataforma na Guiana Francesa. 9 horas e 10 minutos. 4 minutos e 40 segundos para o lançamento, hein? Hoje vai. Atenção para o aviso de 4 minutos, hein? 4 minutos é o tempo para o lançamento. Atenção para o tempo então regressivo 3 minutos. 3 minutos é o tempo regressivo para o lançamento.
The fairing, as you can see, waiting for liftoff in just over 2 minutes.
Aí o pessoal já se dirigiu então para a parte de fora do centro de controle, né, para acompanhar então o lançamento. Dois minutos, hein? 2 minutos. Momentos aí finais aí, dando a contagem regressiva. 9 horas e 12 minutos. E lá vamos nós, hein?
Well, everything is going to happen quite quickly. So, like I said, the electrical power supplies switch from ground to board. The cryogenic arms, which are feeding the upper stage with fuel, we see them retract 6 seconds before liftoff. The Vulcan engine will ignite first. We need to check it's working properly before we switch on the boosters.
Lembrando então que esse é o único canal aqui no YouTube. Também passa com áudio original da transmissão.
Because believe me, you will see and you will hear the launch.
And you'll be hearing every milestone being called out by the DDO. He is the Range Operations Manager, and his role is in...
Atenção então para o aviso. Atenção então para o aviso de 1 minuto, hein? 1 minuto. Menos de 1 minuto, hein?
No more commentary from us. Don't be surprised if it doesn't take off immediately, because of course there are those 7 seconds, Rafael.
Exactly. So just enjoy the launch.
During which the Vulcan engines are.
E lá vamos nós, hein?
The launcher takes off.
Go Ariane 5.
40 segundos.
Enjoy.
Trinta. 20 segundos, hein? 15. 10.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4.
Ignição.
2,
Ignição. E lançou às 9h15 da manhã. Lançou o Ariane 5, levando então a missão JUICE rumo a Júpiter. Direto então da Guiana Francesa. Vamos ouvir.
La propulsion est nominale. La propulsion est nominale.
And there we go. We've seen the Ariane 5 lift off, roaring through the tropical sky, carrying.
E já estamos aí com tempo então de mais de 1 minuto de missão. Tá tudo normal então com o lançamento. O veículo então da Ariane 5 lançou com sucesso às 9h15 da manhã no horário de Brasília, direto então da Guiana Francesa.
La trajectoire est nominale, tous les paramètres bord sont nominaux.
Tudo normal até o momento. Pena que temos nuvens, né? Que a gente não pode acompanhar direito. Mas o veículo, como vocês viram, lançou com sucesso às 9h15. E agora temos dados de telemetria. Pilotagem calma. Trajetória normal. Já estamos aí com 2 minutos. Estamos já numa altitude de 60 km. Boosters, a separação dos boosters auxiliares confirmados. Confirmação então da separação dos foguetes auxiliares. Estamos agora a 90 km de altitude. Estamos chegando à marca de 3 minutos de missão. Trajetória normal. Estamos então acompanhando a missão JUICE. O lançamento então foi feito com sucesso às 9h15 da manhã no horário de Brasília. Abertura então da coifa. Estamos agora numa altitude de 130 km.
Otherwise, we would not be able to release juice into space. It also means that we have crossed the limit of the atmosphere. So juice is on its way to be separated in about 24 minutes from now. So by the way, we will have so the separation of
4 minutos é o tempo da missão. Estamos a 150 km de altitude. Distância horizontal de 300 km.
Because this is 3D animations here, that during the ascent phase, the launcher is set in what we call a barbecue mode. So it's slightly rotating on itself at a speed of 0.7 degrees per second.
Le pilotage est calme, la propulsion est nominale.
So we do this so that every face of the satellite is equally exposed to the sun.
Estamos já chegando próximos aí à base de Natal.
Overheating in one particular side of the spacecraft, which could damage the instruments. And as a matter of fact, when the upper stage is going to be injected on the targeted orbit, it will also rotate at a speed of 0.5 degrees in one direction, and then at the same speed in the other direction. Again, to avoid overheating on one part of the spacecraft,
5 minutos é o tempo da missão. Chegamos a 188 quilômetros de altitude.
Well, they optimize the trajectory.
La propulsion est nominale, le pilotage est calme.
Tudo normal e a pilotagem também calma.
In real time, they minimize the propellant consumptions to bring the launcher to the intermediate orbit targeted at the end of the main stage propulsion phase. And as a matter of fact, we are accelerating a lot right now. So within the next 3 to 4 minutes, we'll go from, well, 3.5 kilometers per second to more than 7
tudo tranquilo aí com o veículo.
25,000 kilometers per hour.
9 horas e 20 minutos no horário de Brasília. Estamos chegando à marca de 6 minutos de missão. Estamos aí numa altitude agora de 215 quilômetros.
Very precise. Okay. So the next milestone we are now waiting for, and we'll be hearing this again from the DDO, is the acquisition by our downrange station of Natal. That is located
Estamos se aproximando então do radar de Natal.
I'll just wait and hear that from the DDO. He may not have confirmed it orally, but by now it is.
Just to explain, all along the route eastwards.
Estamos aguardando a confirmação então da chegada do radar de Natal. Estamos chegando a 7 minutos de missão.
Constant watch on the health of the launcher systems.
Par la station télémesure de Natal.
Confirmado, então, chegamos à estação de Natal.
Apologies, of course I did not mean Ascension, I meant Natal.
7 minutos.
In Brazil, of course. That's the second downwind station.
And just so you know, in all, that's about
Estamos a 230 quilômetros de altitude.
Collected, my goodness. So that there's no way these 1500 parameters can be analyzed in real time, Raphael. What happens to them?
Well, the complete analysis is carried out in the weeks.
Dentro de mais alguns instantes, então, teremos a Mico, conhecido como Mico, que é a separação, desligamento do primeiro estágio, separação e ignição do estágio 2.
This is why we constantly, well, improve our knowledge of a launcher, launch after launch, and then that's why Ariane 5 is such a reliable launcher.
And so you were talking about the stations, and it's a little bit, you were saying to me earlier when we were chatting, it's like a relay race, these stations, isn't it? These downrange.
Yeah.
You were listening to the DDO, what did he say? I didn't hear him.
He said that all the parameters are
8 minutos.
working perfectly.
Nominal, that's what we like to
the flight is perfectly smooth. So yeah, this is like a relay race with one telemetry station passing the baton to the next one, because we want to keep full visibility of the launcher in all dynamic phases of the flight. So the first stations to pick up the data was Galileo, right here in Kourou, followed by Natal in Brazil, then the island of Ascension.
Estamos aí sobre a região então do radar então de Natal.
By Libreville in Gabon, and finally Malindi in Kenya.
As the launcher crosses
Trajectoire
Africa.
nominale, tous paramètres nominaux.
So we'll have
Até agora é tudo normal. Mico,
sequence right now.
Coming up.
The cutoff of the main stage.
We should hear that.
Mico confirm, separação confirmada.
Of the upper stage. So
ignição do estágio 2.
Extinction Vulcain. Séparation EPC.
Separação confirmada aí com sucesso.
And the ignition coming up.
E ignição também do estágio 2 confirmada.
Allumage ESC confirmé.
That's a very good news.
Confirmado então, agora a ignição do estágio 2.
You can't, because we're in our little booth, because we forgot to mention that we are now in the sky booth, where we have a fantastic view over Jupiter, where we can see the crowds gathered. And yes, and so you cannot see the smile on Raphael's face, but he is delighted that this stage has gone perfectly.
Yeah, the ignition of upper stage is absolutely.
Estamos aí com, vamos completar a marca de 10 minutos de missão. Estamos a 200 km de altitude.
Emptiness of stage, of space. Sorry, I told you that on the ground we wait for a few seconds to check that the Vulcan engine is correctly ignited before.
Fin de visibilité par la station de Galileo.
Before liftoff. But in space, it's just not possible to do that. You cannot send somebody to repair the engine. Also in zero gravity, the propellant is floating in all directions.
Le pilotage est calme.
The thermal environment is
boa.
the same as it is on the ground. So, you know, there are many factors that make it quite challenging
nominale, tout paramètre bord nominaux.
And complex to ignite the engine in space.
So we were mentioning earlier, this is the penultimate Ariane 5 launch, which for more than a quarter of a century has provided Europe with reliable and independent access to space, which Josef Aschbacher was talking about earlier. Ariane 6 will be taking over. Europe's best engineers are building on the success of Ariane 5, and there's already a fully integrated Ariane 6 on the launch pad right here in Kourou. You're going to tell us about that, Raphael. So can you take us through the latest developments with Ariane 6?
So last year was quite exciting for Ariane 6.
No momento, todos os parâmetros estão ok. Chegando à marca aí de 11 minutos.
La trajectoire est nominale, tous les paramètres bord sont nominaux.
Here we see a fully representative version of Ariane 6, which has been assembled.
Estamos aí a 175 km.
Directed on the launch pad. The upper composite was then hoisted and mated on top of the launcher. This operational scheme is actually a big difference with respect to what is done with Ariane 5. It is made possible thanks to this mobile gantry, which will obviously be removed during launch. And also, 2023 is going to be also a busy year for Ariane 6, obviously. In January, the launcher was connected to the control bench, and a first power test was performed. Then dry run will be performed, followed by the actual fueling operations of the central core.
La trajectoire est nominale, tous les paramètres bord sont nominaux.
Teams will also perform hot firing test of the lower stage engine, Vulcan 2.1, including a long firing test, and hot firing test of the
Estamos saindo então do radar de Natal e entrando agora no radar ali naquela ponta ali que eu esqueci o nome agora.
Next ones are under preparation. So launcher elements that will be used for the Ariane 6.
Estamos aí na marca de 12 minutos.
Using the new generation canopy vessel, which will be equipped with sails and hybrid propulsion.
La trajectoire est nominale, tous les paramètres à bord sont nominaux.
So that we can start the first real launch campaign of Ariane 6. And so today, the prototype of Ariane 6, stands on the launch pad, ready to continue the combined test. So good luck for this very ambitious and incredible program.
And Raphael, we heard while you were explaining all of this, we heard that the DDO called out the loss of signal with the Natal tracking station. Now, there we go. And we didn't hear that it hadn't been picked up by the next station. Is that normal?
It is perfectly normal to have short visibility holes during non-dynamic phases of the launch.
Estamos aí aguardando então a nova visibilidade aí, pronto. Temos dados aí de ascensão.
Acquisition de la télémesure par la station d'ascension.
Your timing is perfect.
Chegamos então à seção.
So we've been picked up by the next downrange station, that is,
estamos a 148 km de altitude.
Nominal, the DDO is telling us. So from what I understand, we're going back to Ariane 6, there's a very healthy order book already for Ariane 6 launches, Raphael.
Yeah, Ariane 6 is already quite successful on the market, with already 28 launchers sold for both institutional and
commercial. Lembrando que o lançamento foi feito com sucesso na Guiana Francesa, às 9h15 da manhã. Estamos aí no radar então de Ascension.
La trajectoire est nominale, tous les paramètres bord sont nominaux.
Até o momento, então, tudo ok. Estamos acompanhando a missão JUICE. O Ariane 5 da Arianespace.
European spaceport here in French Guiana, carrying ESA's Jupiter Icy Moons Explorer into outer space. We're bringing you this live show from the Jupiter control room, where the operational teams are overseeing the mission's progress. JUICE is due to separate in about 13 minutes' time, but this is just the start of its long journey on its way to Jupiter. Let's find out more about the tech on board that will help it fulfill its mission.
La propulsion est nominale, le pilotage est calme.
At the heart of the JUICE mission, led by esta, is a giant bird-like spacecraft.
Vamos acompanhar então mais uma vinheta sobre a missão JUICE e acompanhar também aí os dados da missão. Estamos aí com a marca de 15 minutos de missão, estamos com a trajetória boa. Agora estamos voltando a subir. Estamos agora chegando a 150 km de altitude novamente. Estamos subindo. Ultrapassamos a marca de 16 minutos de missão. Estamos a 158 km de altitude. Até o momento, então, tudo ok. Lembrando, então, que no dia 15, nós vamos acompanhar, então, a nova tentativa de lançamento para a missão Transporte 7, a partir das 3h40 da manhã. E também no mesmo dia, vamos acompanhar também a desacoplagem da missão CRS 27. A partir das 11h40 da manhã.
So, Raphael, JUICE is an emblematic European science mission. So what is it about this particular mission that inspires you as a rocket scientist?
Estamos chegando então ao radar de Libreville.
Acquisition par la station télémesure de Libreville.
Libreville, chegamos aí em Libreville, na África.
If we go on a more personal note, actually, before working at Arianspace, many years ago already in my life as a space writer, I remember that
estamos agora numa altitude de 200 km e subindo.
Jupiter's icy moon and the
Ultrapassamos a marca de 18 minutos.
Focus on the moon Europa. And you can imagine that I would have never thought back then that I would be here standing at Kourou Spaceport in the Jupiter room to comment on its deployment.
No momento, então, todos os parâmetros normais.
All my colleagues are inspired by such emblematic mission. It really gives us an extra boost each time.
And especially when it comes to a mission aimed at looking for signs of life, that is just something else. It's difficult to actually fathom.
Can you, I mean, yeah, the ambition of JUICE, and it's a very complex mission, by the way.
La propulsion est nominale, le pilotage est calme.
So everything is money.
Tudo normal. Estamos chegando à marca de 19 minutos.
One probe is going to be around the moons of Jupiter, which are unexplored worlds with oceans.
Nesse momento estamos a 246 km de altitude. Estamos subindo rápido agora.
Where exobiologists expect to find some forms of life. We don't know, like microbes, maybe shrimps, maybe small fish. Probably not, but let's dream. And especially on the moon of Europa, it's just absolutely incredible.
Indeed, Raphael, hundreds of professionals in Europe are working on this crucial mission. We met some of them earlier, and as we know, it takes a whole family to put such an expedition together. So let's hear from some of the partners of this mission.
Mais uma vinheta aí sobre a equipe espacial da Europeia. Estamos aí com 20 minutos e 30 segundos de missão. Estamos chegando à marca de 340 km de altitude. Dentro de instantes, então, vamos ter o deploy.
So we are coming up to
Daí com 22 minutos, estamos numa altitude de quase 490 quilômetros.
So everything is working perfectly.
Acquisition par la station télémesure de Malindi.
So we have the Malindi.
Estamos chegando próximo então à estação de Malindi.
So in the past 5 minutes we went from 190 kilometers to more than 500 kilometers of altitude. So it now has
Estamos aguardando então o momento do deploy. Dentro de instantes.
Absolutely gigantic. It is almost the speed at which Juice will be separated into space. During the next 5 minutes, we'll increase altitude even faster. We'll gain an additional 1,000 kilometers in altitude. And by the way, the weight of our structure right now is 14 tons about. Only 2% of
23 minutos de missão. Estamos numa órbita já de uma altitude de 600 quilômetros.
Ariane 5 typically launches geostationary transfer orbit launches. So here we're sending JUICE obviously much farther on an escape orbit. How is this different? How does it differ, for example, from launching a telecom satellite, which is many of the
Tudo normal até o momento.
Well, the energy to provide to the spacecraft by the launcher is higher. It needs to escape the gravitational pull of the Earth. Also for geostationary launches, we usually have a launch window of typically 30 minutes to 1 hour and a half.
Estamos aí com velocidade de mais de 34.000 km por hora.
Today's mission is sort of a rendezvous mission, and there was no launch window. It was what we call an instant
700
launch.
km de
So we had
altitude.
to launch an exact time. So this is why everything has to go smoothly. Even the weather
24 minutos.
before launching. Also, geo launches to the geostationary orbit usually happen in the evening. Today we launched in the morning, meaning that the team have been working all night during the final countdown. And also, we had to
Dentro de instantes, então, teremos o deploy.
the tanks of the upper stage with cryogenic propellant, as the launcher was exposed to the sun since early morning, 6 a.m. So the sun heats and increases the pressure of the tanks. So we had to slightly underload it by 120 tons. Which is, kilos, sorry.
So how is it this mission in itself different in terms of preparation?
Well, we need to take extra care in terms of cleanliness.
Estamos aí só aguardando então o momento do deploy. Estamos chegando na marca então de 25 minutos.
JUICE takes with it in French Guiana,
Já superamos a marca de mais de 900 km de altitude.
Various satellite preparation rooms. Of course, most of the microbes will be sterilized in space, watched out by space radiations, but some can survive. Here we see on the image His Majesty the King of Belgium and His Royal Highness.
Dentro de instantes, então, teremos o deploy 9 horas e 40 minutos.
They are here as VIP guests because Belgium has contributed rather importantly towards preparation for JUICE.
Ciclo.
So we were talking about,
Nós tivemos aí o desligamento do segundo estágio.
Difference in preparation, weren't we?
The second main difference is that, JUICE will perform very precise magnetic field measurements around Ganymede, the moon of Jupiter. And we had to measure many times the magnetic environment of JUICE during the launch campaign on the ground to make sure that in space it will measure only the magnetic environment of Ganymede and not its own magnetic field.
26 minutos e 15 segundos é o tempo da missão de hoje. Superamos a marca de 1.000 quilômetros, 1.200 quilômetros de altitude.
We actually have. I haven't heard it from the DDO, did you?
So right now we are in the stage where
estamos próximos ao deploy.
Is performing slight orientation maneuvers.
Estamos na estação de Malidi.
In a very specific direction. It's important to do so on time in a very precise way, as it will really drive the satellite injection accuracy and have an impact on the rest of the spacecraft's lifetime in space. Just to give you an idea, in end of May, JUICE will perform what we call a trajectory correction maneuver. And so the better the injection precision,
27 minutos.
The maneuver is going to be,
poucos segundos aí para o deploy.
JUICE will be able to save its precious fuel for the rest of the mission.
And Rafael, we are 30 seconds away from separation.
Menos de 30 segundos para o deploy.
We'll stop the commentary and wait for the moment. In a nutshell.
Let me remind you that this is
20 segundos para o deploy.
Here, but the teams are receiving signals and information
10 segundos para o deploy.
And it is them who will confirm the separation of JUICE on its liberation orbit. They will provide all necessary information to ESA teams so that they can inquire.
Deploy. Com 27 minutos e 45 segundos, tivemos o deploy às 9 horas e 42 minutos. No horário de Brasília. Deploy da JUICE. Separação da JUICE confirmada às 9h42 minutos. Separação confirmada. JUICE está em órbita. Numa altitude de mais de 1.600 quilômetros de altitude, JUICE está em órbita.
Yes. And it is so good to see such joy on their faces. Of course, a reminder that this is the very, very first leg of JUICE's journey.
You can see the emotions on the faces. That's really what makes space activities so special. It's like a reboost each time we launch a satellite. And what a satellite right now. Honestly, I can only wish good luck to JUICE and all the teams for this incredible journey through the outer solar system. That's absolutely amazing what we are living right now.
The atmosphere here in Jupiter is effervescent. There is a true sense of joy and happiness. But as I was saying, of course, this is the very beginning of the journey, and we will be letting, of course, the teams in Darmstadt take over shortly, because they are the ones who are going to be confirming acquisition of signal, the first signs of life from our passenger. You were going to say, Rafael?
No, I was saying to say, this is the beginning of the journey for JUICE. For the launcher, we may perform what we call a passivation of the upper stage, meaning that the remaining propellant of the tanks is expelled in order to prevent any risk of explosion in space. This is a requirement for a sustainable use of space. And we also perform a very small disposal maneuver in order to remove the upper stage from any operational orbit, giving an extra push of 13 meters per second. And so, yes, and then this is going to be the real end of the mission for the launcher. But right now, let's focus
Então, às 9 horas e
on
42 minutos,
people's
confirmado, então a
face. This is
JUICE está
absolutely
em
incredible.
órbita.
JUICE is on its way to Jupiter.
And it is especially a joy when considering the stress that a delay brings, even though we know that the passenger is safe. It is a lot of work for many people to have to delay, and a very safe choice to make, of course, as we can see today.
So again, in a few minutes, ESA teams will acquire the satellites.
We're now waiting for, of course, for comments from Stéphane Israël, who's just been mic'd up in the fishbowl, and he'll be with us very shortly. So we'll of course tell you when he's with us. We'll let you know.
Agora estamos aguardando só a confirmação do contato então com a JUICE, a região então perto da Austrália.
And here we have Stéphane, who is mic'd up and ready. Stéphane Israël, over to you. A few seconds delay, but he's with us. Over to you, Stéphane.
Okay. So today's mission is a full success. Team Europe has perfectly delivered. I really want to pay our tribute to all the teams who have made this success possible. Arianspace and Ariane Group team for sure, all the supply chain, ESA, our customer, and Airbus Defense and Space, who is the JUICE manufacturer. It's really the success of Team Europe today, with the support as well for sure of CNES here on the spaceport, and with the design authority of Ariane 5. It is absolutely perfect launch today, and it is now the start of a journey for JUICE, 8 years journey.
Thank you very much, Stéphane Israël, Arianespace CEO. So our teams are now going to, at ESOC, are now going to be taking over from here. So we're going to hand over to them in Mission Control, ESA Mission Control in Darmstadt. Over to you, Matt.
Thank you very much, Lisa. So welcome back to everyone. We are standing in the heart of the European Space Operations Centre, ESOC, a facility in Darmstadt. And this is the mission control room right behind me, the main one. We've got a couple of major milestone events coming up. In less than 5 minutes, we hope to get the first acquisition of signal. That's where we actually talk to the spacecraft itself. And that gets picked up by an ESA ground station. There'll be an icon on the screen that signifies that, and that's a huge satellite dish. And in about an hour, we should then have the final and next key milestone, which is the deployment of JUICE's enormous solar panels. So I'm going to be talking to loads of mission scientists and engineers on this mission. And if you're watching and have questions, then you can ask them. You can go on social media and go to #AskESA, and we will pick them up, and I'll try and get those questions answered. I'm super lucky, and we're all really super excited as well. This has been an amazing day after yesterday's disappointment. For the next half hour, I've got Deputy Flight Director Bruno Souza, who's standing there in the heart of the operation. So, Bruno, how is it looking there in the nerve center right now?
Well, what a beautiful flight. What a beautiful flight from Ariane 5. Everybody's quite excited, but now starts the hard part. The next major critical milestone we have is called acquisition of signal. We will expect to hear from the spacecraft from our ground station at New Norcia in Australia. If you see behind me, there is a plot over there on the screen. If this was a hospital and the satellite was our patient, that would be the electrocardiogram. And what we want to see there is a nice, beautiful shape, should resemble the Himalayas with a Everest in the middle. That indicates the satellite is alive and healthy. If we only see the Kilimanjaro, we'll have some work to do. If we don't see anything at all, we'll just have to be patient and wait for it to come. It will come for sure. So now starts the hard part. The teams will start working. Pay attention to the acquisition of signal coming up at any minute.
So much has happened already. As you can see on the bottom of your screen, with 4 icons representing major milestones in the launch today. We've made it through the first 2, which is unbelievably exciting. Launch and separation of JUICE. Well done to those teams. The next one you can see is the ground station, big satellite dish, which is our acquisition of signal icon, and the solar array deployment icon is that final one. As you can see, I've got a new guest here, the first of our guests, Angela Dietz. So I've been watching you working in the control room, so you've come off a night shift, is that right?
Not yet. We started at 6 o'clock in the morning.
That's okay. A night shift. That's a night shift
exactly.
As far as I'm concerned.
It's the second time we did it.
Estamos só aguardando então a equalização do sinal com a estação então da Austrália dentro de instantes. A confirmação então de fato com a comunicação com a JUICE.
In fact, we've got this little picture here. What sort of thing are we expecting to see?
Yeah, so like Bruno was explaining a bit
atenção,
like a
atenção.
mountain in the middle. Yeah, so this is the frequency band the ground station is listening to. So it's pointed at JUICE, where JUICE is supposed to be, and the communication system on the spacecraft was already started. So it's already transmitting data. But here we wait for the spacecraft actually to come over the horizon, so to arrive, to be seen from the ground station.
So have we got a small window where we can see this, or how big's the window where we can actually see this acquisition signal?
Well, this time would be actually now, but it could be delayed up to 40 minutes. So really depends how the spacecraft is moving. If it's a little bit tumbling, the spacecraft will first do an acquisition and stabilize the attitude.
Okay, right. We're just coming up to this acquisition window, so I'm going to go over to Bruno in the control room and see if we can see what's happening.
Estamos aguardando então o recebimento do sinal da JUICE.
It will appear. Actually, I will not bother you describing it too much. Just stay with me and watch that signal until it pops up with the signal of our spacecraft.
Estamos aguardando. Tem um pequeno delay, né, do envio dos dados. Estamos aguardando.
ODOM.
OMOD.
Quick brief from New Norcia. They see the downlink signal from Ariane.
Copy.
So it's about seconds or minutes that we will see JUICE.
Estamos aguardando então o recebimento do sinal da JUICE.
Copy that. Just stand by.
Estamos aguardando aí então, o recebimento do sinal da JUICE.
No signal yet.
La dernière manœuvre d'orientation de l'étage supérieur se poursuit de manière nominale.
Estamos aí no aguardo do envio do sinal da JUICE. Nada ainda.
Give me a go. We still don't have acquisition of signal at this point. This satellite, as you might have heard already, has been separated from the launcher, from Ariane 5. As it separates, there's always a certain rotation, a tumbling effect. The satellite needs to first prime the thrusters. That means it needs to make all the pipes open such that the fuel and the oxidizer can flow through it. At this point, it can use the thrusters for control, and then it will try to find its own orientation in space, and at that point, it will switch on the transmitter and start transmitting. So there's always a certain uncertainty about the time when we'll actually receive the signal. We have to be patient, we have to keep looking, and I'm sure it will wake up quite soon.
So thanks very much, Bruno. So Angela, what does it mean? What does this actually mean? How long do we have to kind of try and get this signal acquired? And you know, where are we? What's your feelings right now?
For me, this is still nominal, yeah, yep. Still quite nominal. So this is really what we said, like 51, that the spacecraft comes over the horizon of the antenna, so could be seen from the antenna, but that doesn't mean that the spacecraft is already in a state to really transmit. It's what Bruno was said, so it's really still finding, stabilizing the attitude. So yeah, only in about half an hour we would start to get nervous. So from this point on, it's still normal for our point of view.
Ainda não tivemos ainda a equalização do sinal no ponto previsto para a missão JUICE. A JUICE ainda não respondeu, ainda não iniciou o envio de dados. De acordo com o que foi falado pelo Bruno Santos, né? Parece que não houve aí uma rotação do sistema, né? Que seria prevista aí pelo satélite, pela sonda. Mas estamos aguardando aí, então, o envio dos dados da JUICE.
Many billion kilometre journey to Jupiter. We're in the European Space Operations Centre, where the fleet of the European satellites and spacecraft are actually flown and controlled by a large multinational team, people, Angela, scientists and engineers. If you want to ask questions of my many guests that are coming up, you can use the hashtag #AskESA. And I'll try and get them answered as soon as I can. But in the meantime, I'm going to switch you back over to Bruno.
To me.
Oh, for the who's who in the main control. Yeah, tell us who's who in this, who all this international team are.
Just as well, it's a good opportunity to introduce everybody who's in the control room right now. And I will start with this side of the room. And this function are the software coordinators. Today, Marta and Luca and Danielle are taking care of all our software. So all the software that is running on these consoles and on the servers, it's taken care by them. If anything fails, they bring it back up. Right next to them are the ground operations managers, and they are taking care of all the facilities, all the ground stations, making sure that we are connected to the ground station, configuring the ground station to listen in on the satellite, so they will be responsible for finding the satellite in the sky shortly. Now we move over here to the flight control team. And in the flight control team, they're responsible for operating the satellite, so they will take over control once we see it in the sky. Different functions are present here. On the front row, platform is responsible for our radio
10 horas da manhã, no horário de Brasília, ainda estamos aguardando o sinal de recebimento da JUICE, que até o momento ainda não enviou dados para nós. Estamos aí com um tempo de missão de quase 46 minutos.
And then over here on this side, we have the attitude and orbit control.
Estamos ainda esperando o envio dos dados da JUICE.
Julio today, he's taking care of monitoring the separation sequence and what's happening on board. He's also a system engineer. And leading all these people at the moment is my dear friend and colleague for many years, Ignacio Tanco, who I may add is probably one of the best spacecraft operations managers in the world right now. At least the only one flying to Jupiter today. And over here on the last row, we have the flight director. He's also on this side of the ocean, orchestrating, like a maestro, all the teams that are now working towards a successful mission for JUICE. And next to him, we have project support, the project representative. They have been working on the development of JUICE for many years, and they have been managing the program, and now they are finally seeing the fruit of their long years of work. And they are also our interface to the Airbus team that built the satellite, and they're sitting in the room behind this wall, providing us all the support that we need. Back to you, Matt.
Thanks very much, Bruno. Right, always absolutely amazing to have Bruno's expertise on the floor and just all those amazing people. What an absolutely awesome team they are. So if you've just joined us, we're live in Germany, here in the heart of the control centre, where the European fleet of satellites and spacecraft are indeed flown, as we've just seen. You can join in at home and send in your questions at #AskESA. So right now, we're trying to talk to the spacecraft, and that is done with a ground station called New Norcia, which is actually in Australia. And amazingly, we're going to be able to speak to the manager of New Norcia, Susie Jackson, all the way the other side of the world. We've got to go right the way through the world to get there. Yeah, let's go there right now. Hello, Susie. So right behind you, I can see an enormous dish that looks very much like our acquisition of signal icon.
G'day.
Is that the one that we're actually going to be using to try and talk to the JUICE spacecraft?
Yes, so this is New Norcia 1. This is our 35-metre main antenna here at New Norcia, and we're currently having a go at acquiring JUICE as we speak. As you can see, we're up a little ways away from the horizon already, so the spacecraft is
Estamos aí com 48 minutos já de missão, estamos ainda aguardando o contato então com a JUICE. Até o momento, não sei se já houve a confirmação, acho que ainda não. É que eu fui ali rapidinho, né, e já voltei. Até o momento ainda não tivemos confirmação de contato com a JUICE. 10 horas e 4 minutos.
Close to the Earth, we cheat a little bit because we've got such a big dish here with New Norcia 1. It has a very narrow beam, so it's only able to spot a spacecraft in a very small, very well-defined area. Because we aren't completely sure where JUICE is yet, there might be a little bit of variation in its trajectory, although I hear everything's nominal so far. We use a smaller antenna, which is up behind me on the hill, called New Norcia 2, and that's a 4.5-metre antenna, and it has a beam width that's close to 10 times as big, so it's about half a degree. So if JUICE is up there and it's transmitting to us, we'll see it. So as soon as JUICE gets its act together and gets its attitude stabilised and starts talking to us, we'll definitely hear that signal.
Yeah, JUICE is keeping us all guessing at the moment. So how long can this dish actually track JUICE for? Is it for the whole day, or how does that work?
E aí, portanto, acho que tivemos a confirmação aí da JUICE. Pessoal aí, ouvimos aplausos ao fundo, né? Acho que tivemos confirmação. Sim, confirmação.
And the planet's rotating underneath JUICE, so it'll actually come up, and rather than going over the other side like a normal satellite that's in Earth's orbit would do, it'll actually go up and then come back down.
Aparentemente aí tivemos a confirmação às 10 horas e 5 minutos no horário de Brasília. Tivemos a confirmação então dos dados enviados da JUICE.
Susie, I've got some great news for you. We have acquisition of signal.
Temos aí então a atualização do sinal com a JUICE.
This is super ace news.
Wow. What can I say?
Confirmado aí, ó. Confirmado então. JUICE está viva. JUICE está viva.
Everybody's super excited, super happy. Well, it's a lot of work from now onwards, and we have to keep on going. So we'll keep reporting back
está viva.
First of all, we've reached a fantastic milestone. The spacecraft is alive. You start seeing Mount Everest popping up there in the plot right now. The telemetry is flowing phenomenal. We will now start checking every subsystem to make sure that everything is healthy after this crazy ride into space. And then we'll report back to tell you how we're doing. Back to you, Matt.
Thanks so much, Bruno. I mean, I think it's actually made it more exciting, yes. Now, don't forget, you can get involved at home and ask questions. And we are on a roller coaster, so we've just hit our first.
Que alegria, gente. JUICE está viva. JUICE. Conseguimos então capturar o sinal da JUICE.
Please do send in your in your facts. So I'm going to be joined in a second after I show you a video about how exciting this whole journey has been for mankind, getting here to send a spacecraft off to Jupiter. And so we're going to play you a little video now, and I'm going to take you back in time. We're going to go back, far back in time.
Conseguimos, gente, conseguimos. Agora é só aguardar então daqui a mais alguns instantes. Onde então teremos aí a confirmação então da abertura dos painéis solares e das antenas.
Newest guest, I'm joined by Anna-Zina Solomonidou, the senior scientist at the Hellenic Space Center, who's been working on JUICE. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So we just saw a video that went back to the moment where Galileo saw Jupiter with his own eyeballs. I mean, this is incredible. So tell us why Jupiter is just so fascinating.
Well, Jupiter has countless fascinating facts. There's so many things to tell about Jupiter, right? First of all, it's the largest planet of our solar system. It's really massive. It's similar to a star, but it never got big enough in order to start burning. So compared to Earth, it's more than 300 times more massive than Earth is. Pretty big. And in fact, it's actually 2.5 times more massive than any other planet of our solar system combined. So that's about size, right? Then it has very big storms, like the red giant spot that we have on Jupiter, that it's been there for hundreds of years, and it's covered also with clouds that they're like 50 kilometers thick. So you can imagine about the size, right, and what we're talking about. It also has rings. We don't know that much, about Jupiter's rings compared to what we know about Saturn, for instance, but they're there. It's just they're a little bit fainter, yeah. It has been observed by 8 different spacecrafts throughout the time, and of course it has the most moons than any other planet of our solar system. So we count 95 moons up to today, and some of them, the Galilean moons, are so interesting and so important that we're sending a mission to go there and look at them, a dedicated one.
We've had this picture up on the screen. Is this the sort of thing that Galileo might have seen through his telescope?
Well, I can imagine that he didn't see that precisely. It was something fainter and more blurry, but he saw something, so that was very important.
Yeah. So when he first looked at Jupiter, did he actually see the moons when he first saw it, or did he have to sort of adapt his optics and get better and better at actually being a telescope maker?
Exactly, yeah. So while Jupiter was known since the ancient times, Galileo was the first one in 1610 that made a detailed observation of the planet. And because he made some improvements to his small telescope, he was able to observe more distinctly some bodies, and that's how he was able to observe the Galilean satellites. So we're talking about Io, Europa, Ganymede, and Callisto. So, yeah, and in a sense, Jupiter is going to try to do the same if we think about it.
Yeah.
So,
somos o único canal aí brasileiro a transmitir para vocês a missão completa da JUICE. Nesse momento, então, JUICE está enviando sinal para nós. Dentro de mais alguns instantes, nós vamos aí acompanhar também o momento então da confirmação da abertura dos painéis solares e também da antena. São 10 horas e 11 minutos. Estamos ainda com a transmissão ao vivo.
So yeah, these Galilean moons, as you said, is so synonymous with Jupiter. The actual mission itself has actually got a tribute to the man himself, Galileo. So do you know? Can you tell us just a little bit about that tribute?
Yeah, there's a plaque that is mounted on the spacecraft, and it actually replicates a few pages from.
I think we have a little bit of a screen here of it.
Exactly. Yeah. So you see this being mounted on the spacecraft, and it replicates a few images from Galileo's book, where he described the observations of the moons back in 1610.
Então, lembrando que a missão JUICE, né, ela vai investigar mais a fundo as luas galileanas, né, de Júpiter, Ganymede, Callisto e Europa. Gostaria então aí de saber de fato se há vida bacteriana, né, e se há condições então de possivelmente a gente visitar elas lá, né, pessoalmente.
All these amazing spacecraft that the European Space Agency build, and I'm here with scientists, engineers and spacecraft specialists. It's a real special moment to talk to these people on what is one of Europe's biggest missions ever, this journey to
Lembrando que essa é a primeira missão desse tipo então da Agência Espacial Europeia.
I'm going to hand over to Bruno because he has some news for us. Let's go.
More good news. The spacecraft is in a hurry.
Estamos aí com a marca de 58 minutos já de missão.
The spacecraft is going quite fast through the configuration and to the automatic sequence that is leading us towards the solar array deployment. So in fact, the last pyrotechnics that will release the solar
Agora então, já com a sequência iniciada, né, da preparação então da abertura dos painéis solares, tá tudo ok com a sonda JUICE. A gente está recebendo então sinais aí da sonda. E tudo ok então com a sonda, e ela já está então fazendo a sequência aí de inicialização operacionais. Lembrando que aqui no nosso canal, o IPTV, no IPTV in Space, você acompanha todos os detalhes da missão JUICE e de todas as outras missões por completo, aqui ao vivo, sempre ao vivo, e também com o áudio original da transmissão. Então, siga nosso canal, o IPTV, e compartilhe. Curta e compartilhe.
Moons look like in detail. We're going to spend some time there, so we will have the opportunity to look closely and overlap, go back to the previous to places that we visited before.
Lembrando mais uma vez que a missão da Transporte 7, a nova tentativa de lançamento, será feita amanhã, na madrugada de amanhã, a partir das 3h40 da manhã. Transmissão ao vivo para vocês também, tudo completo, todos os deploys aqui para você. E também às 11h40 da manhã vamos acompanhar a desacoplagem da missão CRS-27 na Estação Espacial Internacional.
Doesn't happen with other satellites, right? And it's a very good example of a liquid environment. Let's not forget that the most interesting fact about these moons is that they're ocean worlds. And what does that mean? Is that they hide a liquid ocean underneath their icy surface. So Ganymede is a very good example of a liquid environment trapped in between icy layers. Then we go into Europa, and Europa is 4.5 billion
1 hora de missão. Nesse momento completamos aí a marca de 1 hora.
It's very, very young. And it also, we suspect that the water there is in Europa is double the water we have here on Earth. So it's the best candidate. If you want to find life out of Earth, Europa is a very good candidate to go and, you know,
ela está falando da lua Europa, né, que é uma bela candidata aí, para a gente ir pessoalmente lá, né. Por isso que a sonda JUICE é importante, essa missão da JUICE, justamente para investigar melhor as luas galileanas, né, Ganymede, Callisto e Europa, mas a principal candidata, né, de abrigar a vida humana, essas luas é a Europa.
We will get an information as soon as we reach the last ones, and then we will know that we are just a few minutes away from full array deployment. So we just have to hang on a few minutes more. Everything is going super smooth. All subsystems have reported already that the spacecraft looks quite healthy, so no reason to worry at this point. Let's just keep watching. A few minutes more and we should have.
Então a missão com a parte da Arianespace já foi concluída com sucesso aí, né? Tivemos a missão concluída com a parte então da Arianespace aí concluída com sucesso. Agora estamos aí só com a parte então da ESA, né? Onde vamos acompanhar aí os próximos passos. Os próximos passos então aí são o momento então da abertura dos painéis solares, da antena. 1 hora e 2 minutos de emissão. Estamos aí acompanhando ao vivo ainda a missão JUICE.
Yes, so in fact the mission was defined to maximize the mass of science instrument to be brought to Jupiter. And to do that, Ariane 5 was not powerful enough to send directly the spacecraft toward Jupiter. The payload mass would have been too small. And what has been designed by ESOC mission analysis team and then tuned by flight dynamics team is multiple flyby to benefit from gravity assist of massive planet on the way to Jupiter. And as a result, we have 1 year after launch, we'll have a lunar Earth flyby, which will first accelerate the spacecraft. In fact, send it toward Venus 1 year after, then accelerate again around the Earth, a third acceleration around the Earth, and then a 2.5 leg to Jupiter. And it was within the mission capability to be able to reach Jupiter within 10 years. It was the requirement for the mission analysis. And each year you can find, depending of the configuration of the planet, you can find some trajectory with Venus and Earth, with Venus, Earth and Mars, and different combination. And in fact, the combination that we have today for this launch window is Earth, Venus, Earth, Earth, and then Jupiter. With some peculiarity on the first one, to have an even more.
No caso, a sonda JUICE, né, vai usar a gravidade assistida, né, para ganhar velocidade. Então vai usar a combinação Terra, Vênus, Vênus, Terra e depois Júpiter. Então vai utilizar a gravidade assistida para ganhar velocidade e seguir aí em direção primeiro a Vênus, depois voltar para a Terra e aí ir para Júpiter. Chegada então em Júpiter, próximo de Júpiter, ali está então em julho de 2031.
orbit around Ganymede. That will be also very first in spacecraft mechanics.
Yeah, so there's a few firsts there. I've not seen a lunar Earth flyby. Is that the first time that's been done by any
to my knowledge, yes.
Yeah, I've not seen that before. So, and the other interesting thing is we're going in completely the wrong direction. I don't know if you know this, but Venus seems to be right towards the sun.
E a chegada então na órbita de Ganymede está prevista então para 2034.
Planetary gravity assist. It's more effective than Mars, that is in between Earth and Jupiter, but combining all those planets at the end allows a good trip.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it, that even in 6 years' time, she's still going to be flying around the Earth, and it's incredible, isn't it? So, on this journey, we've got really extreme temperatures.
São 10 horas e 20 minutos no horário de Brasília. Estamos aí com 1 hora e 6 minutos de missão, né? Chegando à marca de 1 hora e 6 minutos. Estamos só aguardando daqui a pouco, né? A abertura então dos painéis solares, da liberação das antenas.
And at Jupiter, we are at very low sun illumination. So the range of sun illumination is from 1 to 60, meaning that the spacecraft has to cope with very hot and very cold temperature case.
Lembrando que aqui no nosso canal UPTV, no UPTV in Space, vocês acompanham toda a missão completa. Toda a transmissão completa aí das missões. Desde o seu lançamento até o deploy, nesse caso da missão JUICE, então vai ter a confirmação da abertura dos painéis solares. Você acompanha tudo, todos os detalhes.
What solutions you've actually developed to do that?
It's multiple solutions for the body of the spacecraft. It's first isolating the spacecraft from the sun, so it's by multi-layer covers, thermal covers. We have up to 25 layers, which protect the spacecraft. When we are close to the sun, going to Venus, we also point the high-gain antenna towards the sun, which is used as the first heat shield. And we communicate with the Earth with another antenna that will be deployed in a couple of hours, the medium-gain antenna, that is 60 centimeter diameter. For the solar array, to avoid that the solar array are too hot, we tilt them to minimize the surface presented to the sun. And this tilt is maintained when we are in between the Earth and the sun. And then at Jupiter, we have to benefit from the multi-layer insulation that enable to maintain the electronic inside the spacecraft within, let's say, a comfortable environment with a minimum of heater power that is also provided by electrical heaters.
Yeah, I've got some questions coming in from social media that I'll ask you in a second. I've just got one question that I've been the radiation that we're getting at
radiation at Jupiter.
Yeah, radiation at Jupiter. What are the different sources of radiation and how are they affecting the spacecraft?
Yes, radiation of Jupiter. Jupiter is a big system, in fact, and Jupiter is very massive, and it creates some tidal effect on the closest moon orbiting around Jupiter, which is Io, and Io is not an icy moon, it's a volcanic moon. This volcanism is created by Jupiter gravity, and as a result of that, you have a large ejection of Io material, basically sulfur dioxide, that is then catched by the magnetic field of Jupiter. Magnetic field of Jupiter is huge, so ejection are done at several hundred of kilometers above the surface of Io, captured by the magnetic field, which is rotating fastest than the moon itself in its orbit, and then it is ionized and transformed into
10 horas e 23 minutos no horário de Brasília, 10 e 24 agora, virou. Estamos ainda acompanhando a missão JUICE. Estamos com tempo de missão de 1 hora, 9 minutos. JUICE então já está enviando dados para nós. Nós estamos agora esperando então a confirmação da abertura dos painéis solares, da liberação da antena.
No, because you have spacecraft going even faster.
Lembrando que o lançamento aconteceu ainda há pouco, às 9h15 da manhã, no horário de Brasília, na Guiana Francesa. O lançamento foi feito então pela Arianespace com a Ariane 5. O lançamento então feito com sucesso.
And let's say 220 kg of instrument. So for 220 kg of real science instrument, you need a 6 ton for this mission at launch.
It's a long journey, isn't it? How much fuel do you need?
In fact, the fuel is not really for the journey, it's for very specific maneuver. We need to insert the spacecraft around Jupiter, so it costs about 1/3 of the fuel. Then later on, we need to orbit around Ganymede, so we need also to be captured around Ganymede, so it's another significant portion of the fuel. And we have some small maneuver here and there on the orbit. But most of the propellant is
lembrando que a parte com a Arianespace já foi concluída. Agora estamos aí só com a parte da ESA.
Apparently we're going to go over to Susie over in New Norcia. Is that not right?
G'day, Matt.
Hello, Susie. We've got you back.
Hello.
Hello. So Susie.
Hello, Matt. How are you?
Very well, thank you. So Susie, how do we communicate with a spacecraft that's that far away?
Então essa é a antena, né, que está sendo usada então para capturar o sinal das JUICE.
So the whole idea is the spacecraft can only carry a small antenna, so it can only have a fairly small amount of gain and a fairly small amount of power, because it all has to be driven by the solar panels. Whereas here on Earth, we can have as big an antenna as we like.
1h11 de missão.
So when we're receiving from the antenna, we use very sophisticated cryogenic receivers and a large antenna, and when we're transmitting to the spacecraft, we just use brute force. So we just put up to 20 kilowatts of radio power straight out through the antenna towards the spacecraft, and it all works.
So can you give us some idea about the different sort of levels of power that you're trying to receive, and because I'm assuming these are ridiculous numbers.
Yeah, so an analogy is if you're standing on the surface of Mars and you have a mobile phone, now of course assuming that your mobile phone is in the frequency bands that we use for space communications, which your mobile phone isn't, but if you had a mobile phone on the surface of Mars, we'd be able to pick up that signal. We have some of the most sensitive receivers on the face of the planet.
So how long does it take a command to actually reach the spacecraft? Because you're not just receiving signals, are you? You're actually able to talk to the spacecraft as well and then hear back from the spacecraft. How long does that whole process take, and what are the challenges there?
Yeah, so one of the big problems here is that the spacecraft is so far away. So it can take, Jupiter in fact is anywhere from around 40 to 50 minutes away at the speed of light. So of course the commands travel out to Jupiter at the speed of light. So they'll get there in 40 or 50 minutes. A response from the spacecraft can take another 40 or 50 minutes to come back. So you're looking at a round trip time of an hour and a half. So it's one of the comments that I've heard about deep space tracking actually from one of my colleagues at ESA is that it's sometimes like watching grass grow, because it's slow and methodical, and you take your time talking to the spacecraft.
Yeah, can you describe the process of sending commands? Is it different to receiving commands? Is there any similarities and differences? What are the main differences there?
Well, so the main difference, of course, is when we're receiving very small signals. When we transmit back to the spacecraft, we use the same hardware, we use all the same antenna, and we use the same feed horn, we use the same, much the same electronics. But of course, instead of having a very sensitive receiver, we have an extremely large, powerful transmitter. And if you look at the base of the antenna, that you might be able to see.
10 horas e 29 minutos no horário de Brasília. Estamos aí acompanhando a missão JUICE. Nesse momento, né, JUICE está já enviando os sinais, né, para a Defesa, através então dessa.
So Susie, I've got some more exciting news from Bruno. We're going straight to Bruno in the main control.
Através aí dessa
Give us
comunicação.
your update now, please.
So we've just reached the second most
Desculpe,
critical
gente.
milestone is LEOP, which
Vamos
is
voltar.
the deployment
10 horas
of
e
solar
30
arrays.
minutos.
Just a couple of
Estamos
minutes
aguardando
ago,
só agora a abertura
the
então dos
last
painéis
pyros
solares
that
da
are,
sonda JUICE,
cutting the knives,
né,
that,
aquela antena que a gente viu ali na região da Austrália, é onde então está sendo capturada aí toda a transmissão esse momento então da JUICE. Nesse momento então a JUICE está enviando sinais aí para nós. Tudo tranquilo. Lembrando que o lançamento aconteceu às 9h15 da manhã, no horário de Brasília, na Guiana Francesa. Estamos aguardando só a confirmação agora, né, mais alguns minutos, da abertura então dos painéis solares, né, onde está aí a configuração aí dos painéis solares da JUICE. Cada parte aí dos painéis solares marcados aí em cada retângulo, e aí será então confirmada então a abertura de cada um desses painéis.
One of the wings now looks deployed at microswitch level. That means it's in its final position. And you see that successively the power starts increasing as each of the panels unfolds. I recall that these are some of the largest solar panels ever flown an interplanetary mission. They have 27 meters from one edge to the other edge. In total, they have an area of 85 square meters of solar panels. Close to the Earth, they're able to produce a lot of power, but once we get to Jupiter, it will only produce a few hundred watts. Nevertheless, the process is ongoing. This is a very exciting moment for us. If it all works out, if the two panels successfully completely deploy, we will have a mission ready to fly to Jupiter. We will still need to do a lot of work to configure the satellite for cruise and to configure the satellite for the commissioning phase that comes afterwards. That is the phase where we test all the equipment to make sure that everything is still fully functioning. But I keep hearing my colleagues saying that switches keep registering the panels unfolding. So everything is going quite nominally at this point. It will take a few more minutes. I think we're almost ready. The wing on the right side also started to deploy nominally, and some of the switches are already indicating that they are in the deployed position. As the power increases steadily, it will not increase non-stop. At one point, it will reach the limit of power that the spacecraft is able to consume, and it will not produce more than that. It automatically regulates itself only to produce as much as the satellite needs, although at this distance from the sun, it is able to produce a lot more. The batteries are already being recharged, so there is already an excess of power coming from the solar rays that allows us to refill the batteries. I recall you that the satellite has been working on batteries ever since a few minutes before the actual launch of Ariane 5. We went to internal power, and the spacecraft has been using its internal batteries to keep everything up and running. Now it's moving on to the solar rays, it's producing its own energy, and it's able to refill the batteries. Confirmation -Y, that's the right side of the spacecraft, -Y wing has just also completely deployed at microswitch level. So this is a good sign.
We have successful deployment of the solar arrays. We have a mission, we are flying to Jupiter. We go there fully loaded with questions. Europe is getting there, Jupiter. Get ready for it.
I hope you just heard Andrea Komatsu announcing on the briefing loop that Europe has a mission. We are on our way to Jupiter. We have power. Both solar arrays are fully deployed. The satellite is fully functioning. After a little scare, coming late to talk to us, the satellite is finally there. And what a beauty, what a beauty. What a great satellite, what a great mission. Congratulations to everybody involved. congratulations to the rocket, to the teams on the ground, to the teams here at ESOC that are now taking control. I will hand it back to you, Matt. There is not much to say. We have a fantastic mission ongoing, and what a pleasure it has been to share this moment with you.
Yeah, absolutely. The early tense has made this all the better. I mean, I've got a little party going on in my room. So yeah. So I want to remind. I mean, it's just how brilliant is this? I want to remind our watchers that they can also participate in this amazing day. Simply use the hashtag Ask ESA on social media, and we'll try and get your questions answered. We have one actually coming in from Twitter, which is how is JUICE able to explore Jupiter's moons in depth while it remains in orbit? It's a great question, and it's really good timing, because we've got Rosario Laurenti, who is a real scientist working in the JUICE Science Operations Center. Hello, Rosario.
Hi, Matt.
So before we get to that question, actually, of how is it able to do it, let's talk about this 8-year journey, because this is something else that's been coming up on Twitter quite a lot, is people asking, what are the scientists going to be doing in this 8-year journey?
10 horas e 35 minutos no horário de Brasília. Estamos aí acompanhando a missão JUICE. Estamos em tempo de missão de 1 hora e 20 minutos. Estamos aí agora só aguardando os momentos finais aí da missão, com a abertura então dos painéis solares da JUICE. Quem está chegando novo no canal, não se esqueça então de se inscrever, de curtir, comentar e compartilhar aí a nossa transmissão. Estamos aí acompanhando então desde o seu lançamento, que foi na Guiana Francesa, às 9h15 da manhã, no horário de Brasília, pela Arianespace, com a Ariane 5. Agora estamos aguardando apenas aí o início então da sequência de abertura dos painéis solares da sonda JUICE.
And for us, it's like organizing a super orchestra and trying to play a great symphony with the best instruments, the best players.
Lembrando então, nossa programação ainda dessa semana, na madrugada do dia 15, a partir das 3h40 da manhã, nós vamos acompanhar a nova tentativa da missão Transporter 7. E logo depois, às 11h40 da manhã, vamos acompanhar a desacoplagem da CRS 27.
Much, Matt. And yes, we are here, and I'm here with ESA DG, Josef Aschbacher. My goodness, how are you feeling right now?
Lembrando então que somos o único canal brasileiro aí a transmitir tudo por completo para vocês.
All the people who have made this possible. This goes all the way back to member states making a decision that we are having such a mission.
Então estamos de volta aí à Guiana Francesa.
Dreamed of the impossible to go to Jupiter and really find out, is there a moon that could be habitable? And this is a question which of course we are all asking.
Onde então ainda há pouco às 9h15 da manhã tivemos o lançamento da Ariane 5.
And of course the project teams, the industry, all the companies, all the partners, all the institutions who have contributed instruments. I'm so grateful, and I really would like to thank them from the bottom of my heart, but also to say you can really be so proud of having this achieved. Let me also add a word of thank you to our international partners. NASA is a very strong partner of ESA and of Europe. We have many cooperations, and this is one of them, where NASA has provided one instrument in particular, but also our partners in Japan. JAXA has provided components to the instruments. The Israel Space Agency has provided components.
Lembrando que além da União Europeia, Israel e Japão estão participando aí desta missão da JUICE.
Well, it's a delight to see your face and everyone else's face here today. It's a wonderful, wonderful, warm feeling here inside Jupiter. And well, thank you very much, Josef. And I hope I hope the rest of the mission goes as well as
we all hope, of course. I mean, there's still steps to undertake. We are in a celebratory mood, and I think we have good reasons because we had acquisition of signal. Now the solar panels are opening. Of course, I have to remind everyone.
Estamos aí só aguardando então daqui a alguns minutos a abertura, a sequência então de abertura dos painéis solares da JUICE.
So there's still a lot of work to be done, but the most critical one, which is the launch, the separation, the acquisition of signal, all this has happened, and for this I think we have really done a very big step towards Jupiter.
A huge thank you to you. Thank you, Joseph. And so, well, that is it from us here in Jupiter in Kourou. Raphael and me are going to say a huge thank you to all the teams here. You don't see them, but my goodness, they have been working so hard to bring you this show. So we're delighted to have been part of it. Thanks to everyone. Thanks for watching. And Raphael, last word?
Well, congratulations to my wonderful colleagues and all the teams involved in this mission. What an incredible mission.
And we're going to hand back to ESOC, and they're going to, I think they have a surprise for you, but that may be later on. We're going to hand back to them for now, over in Darmstadt. Thanks for everything.
Thanks very much, Lisa. Yeah, how amazing. Congratulations to all those teams, and well done, Ariane 5, for delivering this special payload into space. What an amazing moment. For those who just joined us, I'm actually in Germany, where they actually fly these spacecraft and out to Jupiter, and I'm with Rosario, and we were just getting onto a Twitter question, which was, how is JUICE going to be able to explore the moons in depth when it's out at once it's in orbit around Jupiter?
Yeah. Well, a funny way to look at this is to imagine JUICE as a 6-ton beast, and the instruments as the senses of this beast, and the way it perceives the world, and in particular the Jovian moons. For example, the eyes of this beast will be the remote sensing instruments that will be watching at the surface and the
Vocês que estão chegando agora, são 10 horas e 41 minutos no horário de Brasília. Estamos ainda acompanhando a missão JUICE. Estamos já chegando aí nos momentos finais da transmissão de hoje, né, da missão JUICE, onde vamos acompanhar também agora, dentro de instantes, a sequência então de abertura dos painéis solares da sonda JUICE. Lembrando que o lançamento aconteceu ainda há pouco, às 9h15 da manhã, no horário de Brasília, na Guiana Francesa, pela Ariane 5, da Arianespace. Então, o objetivo da missão JUICE é justamente então chegar a Júpiter, mais especificamente nas luas galileanas de Júpiter, Callisto, Ganymede e Europa. Onde então ela vai fazer um estudo mais detalhado nessas luas para saber então qual é a melhor candidata aí para abrigar vida humana, né? A gente sabe que existe vida bacteriana, mas a melhor candidata então para abrigar vida humana, né? Todo mundo já deve conhecer. Aí então é a lua Europa, né? Mas aí então a sonda JUICE está indo lá justamente para confirmar esses dados. E a previsão de chegada então na Ganymede aí só em 2034.
So, how do you, as a scientist, do you deal with all the expectations, and how does the spacecraft itself deal with all those expectations and this huge orchestral complex piece that it has to play when it gets out there?
Yeah. Well, we think that the hardest part of this orchestra is to jungle between what we want and what we can.
Então, para dar iniciar a sequência então, do início da sua jornada, só estamos aguardando a abertura então, dos painéis solares e das antenas de transmissão para poder a sonda então iniciar a sua jornada fazendo a gravidade assistida, né, para ganhar velocidade na órbita da Terra, depois na órbita lunar, e seguir para Vênus, depois voltar para a Terra, ganhar mais velocidade e seguir rumo a Júpiter. Aí a chegada mais próxima da órbita de Júpiter está prevista aí para 2031.
Solar panels that could power up several houses on Earth, they can only power up something similar to a microwave at Jupiter.
E os países participantes, né, além da União Europeia, tem Israel e Japão.
That can be switched on at the same time. On the other hand, being at Jupiter means that we are very far away from the Earth also, and this means that the data transfer is very slow. For example, if we had a 2-hour film on board JUICE, it will take several days to be transferred to the Earth.
Lembrando também que somos os únicos canal brasileiro aí a transmitir para vocês em português também. Missão completa, tudo completo para vocês de todas as missões, dos deploys, tudo para vocês. E também o áudio, né, da transmissão original. 1 hora e 30 minutos de missão. Estamos aí a 10 horas e 45 minutos no horário de Brasília.
No. It's right there.
So, yeah, what are the plans for?
Estamos já completando aí quase 2 horas e 20 de transmissão para vocês da missão JUICE.
Yeah. Once the data are here, the instrument teams are the ones that know how to cook them to be usable for the scientists. So they will cook the data. They will be stored in an archive, and then they will be
dentro de mais alguns minutos, vamos então aí daqui a pouco então tem a confirmação da abertura da sequência de abertura então dos painéis solares da JUICE dentro de alguns instantes mais.
It really strikes me that these things take a long time to develop. We heard from Frederick, take a long time to develop, and then it takes a long time to get there, and then it takes a long time to actually process the data. This, for some scientists, this is a life's work, isn't it?
A lifetime work, yes.
So do you think there will be a JUICE moment? Do you think you'll have a moment where you go, oh, this is amazing?
Well, who knows? Yeah. We had, there was the Galileo moment when, as Anesina was saying, Galileo discovered Jupiter's moons. We can think about a second Galileo moment when the Galileo probe showed that these worlds are not as cold and as dead and as inhospitable as it was thought before. And this changed completely our understanding of the universe and the way we search for life beyond the Earth. And who knows if we will have a JUICE moment that will also change completely our understanding of the solar system. So let's hope for the best.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Rosario, for giving us all that information about JUICE. It's what an incredible mission. For those who are just joining us, you can ask more questions of more of our guests, and we'll try and get them answered. Right now, we've got a video to show something about the teams that are involved here at ESOC, and we're going to have a special guest straight after that to talk about that. So hopefully we've got a video now of the teams in ESOC.
Beginning in 2015.
Since 2014. I started on the JUICE project 4 years ago when I started with Visa.
I have been working for JUICE for the last 9 years.
For 10 years now. It's like my child. I saw it growing up and now it's leaving home.
Project manager coming to me and saying, Mihaela, let's go and have a look on the structure panels in the clean room. When I was actually in front of the hardware, I visualized for the first time the beauty of the JUICE satellite.
The first day in which the computer arrived, the onboard computer arrived, we put it on a bench and we turn it on and we can start feeling the
10 horas e 48 minutos no horário de Brasília. Estamos aí acompanhando a missão JUICE. Estamos acompanhando agora só momentos finais aí da missão, esperando a abertura dos painéis solares.
You just realized through the achievement of this test all efforts coming from Europe. The biggest challenge for me was
Lembrando então que eu sou o único canal brasileiro aí a transmitir tudo para vocês por completo. Siga a gente então nas nossas redes sociais, no Twitter e no Instagram, para acompanhar então tudo que acontece na programação da semana e do mundo espacial. Nosso Twitter é o mesmo nome do canal, @UILPTV, e no Instagram é matemática com UP.
So now working around an interplanetary probe in the clean room, knowing that I contributed to this legendary mission is a dream come true.
Certainly it was so rewarding for me to work on such a fantastic project with an incredible European team, multidisciplinary and multicultural.
It's really exciting to be here and being part of this great team that makes the launch possible. Greetings from French Guiana.
A launch campaign, I did quite a number of them. It's every time a big adventure technologically, but also for everything happening during the days, and every second can reserve a surprise.
10 horas e 50 minutos.
At night in the jungle.
I want to thank all my colleagues if they're watching. They made me the professional I am today, and I'm so proud and honored to have been working with you. And I want to thank industry for making this amazing mission possible. Bye!
We can see there that there are just so many people working here at ESOC, and way more than we just saw there working here to make all these missions work.
Estamos já com a marca de 1 hora e 36 minutos de missão.
Operations Manager Thomas Ormston, who has joined me. Hello, Thomas.
Hello.
So
estamos só aguardando então o início da abertura, da sequência da abertura então dos painéis solares. Para a missão JUICE.
Of course, we're never going to see it here on Earth again, which is good news.
Então essa é a equipe, né, que fez a montagem da Sonda JUICE.
Yeah, I guess you know quite a lot of these people as well.
I mean, for sure, some of the people there, we work with very closely. They build our spacecraft, they get them ready for launch, and here at ESOC, of course, we tend to work here behind our screens. We don't see the spacecraft in real life like this. We see it through the numbers that are on the graphs and the displays behind you.
Yeah, I mean, it must be great to see this. I mean, that really does give you a perspective on just how massive this spacecraft is and where it's going. We saw in that video, we saw the sort of sense of pride, but how much hard work it is. Is that really the kind of thing that stands out when you work on a mission like this?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when you work on any mission here, you treat it like your baby. I mean, you really do. You spend so long preparing for it, and then actually flying it, you get a real connection to the spacecraft. You know when it's in a bad mood and when it's in a good mood, and how to treat it. And just like having a child, you're equal parts proud and happy, and also incredibly scared and tense most of the time as well. So.
Yeah, well, as JUICE was misbehaving earlier on, and so obviously there's lots of different scenarios that can. I mean, we've seen this in real, you know, as bystanders have seen this in real time. That there's different scenarios that can happen. Solar array deployment came earlier, and acquisition came later. Do you run these as simulations? Do you sort of go over these different routines?
Absolutely. No, I mean that's what the team will have been up to for the last few months, and that's a critical part of being ready to go into this room on launch day, is doing those simulations and practicing everything. We have some wonderful people that we love to hate in a windowless room under here that give us all sorts of scenarios, not just complicated technical problems, but also more practical things like somebody is off sick, or they play music over our headsets, or crash our computers. We have to deal with all of these things. And as much as learning the technical side, we also have to learn how to work with each other, how to manage things like human error. I mean, we know it's going to happen. We're not in the process of eliminating it, just mitigating it. So we have to learn how to work with each other as much as we need to learn how to work with the spacecraft.
Yeah, so is that, in a simulation, has anyone pressed the wrong button? It's the end of the thing and you go, no!
Oh, yes. Oh, it happens. But that's the other thing we need to learn. We need to learn not to blame each other and not to feel shame, because if you feel shame, you try and hide something that you've done wrong, that's going to go badly for the spacecraft. So you have to learn in here to work, to be open, to be understanding, and to work together, because that's the only way we're going to make a success out of a mission like JUICE, and I'm sure we are going to make a success out of this mission today.
Absolutely. I've actually got a really interesting question from #AskESA, and they say, are there any members of the team who won't really get mentioned but really deserve to be acknowledged? Can you think?
That's a really good question. There probably are many that I'm not even going to say. I mean, I would actually say all of the people that are around us making this happen. You see the engineers on the video and in the room behind us, the engineers and the scientists that are working on this, but we can't do our jobs without everybody that supports us. And everybody that supports us are people that you may think of as normal, but they're not. They're working at a space agency, but people like cleaners, people like the canteen staff that keep us fed while we're working here, the people that are producing video segments like this. These are all people that are working even hard, sometimes harder than us, at making sure that what we do in the flashy main control room there is a success.
Yeah, I did think I wasn't quite getting what I deserved there. So are there any interesting rituals or traditions that happen before a launch? Is shaving beards, I've heard, or favourite socks?
I hope they don't shave beards. I do have some good space socks on.
Do you know what? I'm wearing the socks that I wore during Vega C, so I'm superstitious.
Excellent. Yeah. No, we get superstitious too. I mean, one of the big ones is we have the launch cards, we call them. So on the doors of the control room behind us, all of the missions that are here at ESOC that are already flying or are preparing to fly make some sometimes cheeky, sometimes funny cards where we all wish the team good luck and post them on the doors. The best one I've seen from today was an actual box of orange juice that the team have all signed to wish them well. I think we've got them up on the screen there, some of them. Yeah. Excellent. But that's a nice way that we can connect to the newbies in space. I mean, they're just starting their journey, which will take quite a while to get to Jupiter, and we all want to wish them well and welcome them to orbit, or in their case, beyond orbit.
Yeah. Is there any? I mean, you've worked on lots of different missions here. Have you got any funny anecdote or favourite moment that you've ever had on one of these missions?
Probably. What can I speak about? No, I think night shifts in here when things go according to plan, and that's what we wish. We wish for the life in this room, in the main control room, to be boring. Boring means everything's going well, but it does mean you get a bit loopy on night shift, and once we scrunch together all the procedures, because of course we have pages and pages of procedures, and we have our emergency procedures for just after the launch. We don't need them anymore, of course. Once we've got the spacecraft flying, we don't need them. So we scrunched them together and had our game of football here. Of course, we're engineers, so we're not all the best, not exactly high sporting prowess, so I wouldn't say it's going to win any sporting competitions, but it was good fun and it passed the time.
Yeah, well, thanks so much, Thomas, for sort of bringing home this incredible team. And talking of incredible team members, I'm going to throw you back to my favourite one, Bruno. How's it going in there?
It's going very well. The mood has changed from one of a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of happiness, to one of full concentration.
Estamos aí aguardando só a abertura dos painéis solares da sonda JUICE. Foi concluída. Parece que foi concluída então a abertura dos painéis solares.
What a fantastic machine it is, developed by our partners at Airbus. What a fantastic work they've done. Normally when you put a satellite out in space and it suddenly faces this harsh
Estão confirmados aí a abertura então dos painéis solares da JUICE.
Go out of limits, the temperatures are not what we expect, but on this spacecraft actually we only saw two small parameters that were slightly cool. but that causes no worries at all. So the spacecraft is behaving beautifully. People are concentrated, people are going through the procedures and starting the final work. So now it's full concentration, and you can tell that everything is silent now. People are just focusing on what they need to achieve now. For me, it's time to go and get some rest. I need to come back on shift at midnight to do the completion of the configuration of the satellite for the cruise phase and the commissioning just before that. So it's goodbye from my side. It has been a pleasure.
Thanks, Bruno.
Então é isso, depois de 1 hora e 40 minutos de missão, completamos aí, concluímos então com sucesso a missão de hoje. Então, com a confirmação então da abertura dos painéis solares da missão JUICE.
For the juice, of course it is a juice, of course, so that kind of makes sense. And the person who won is the most aptly named human being ever, and that's Margherita Gagnoni. Hello, Margherita.
Hello.
Where did you get your inspiration for your mocktail from?
So my inspiration was one of the 3 icy moons of Jupiter, Europa, and we know this moon could host like ocean underneath the icy surface, and so I said, okay, that's really interesting, like the geology of Europa, and I tried to recreate this ocean. So there's a focus on this ocean with like blue spirulina in it. And so
isso, né? Já podemos aí encerrar também a nossa transmissão de hoje. Quero então agradecer a todo mundo que acompanhou desde cedo aí a nossa transmissão. Esse momento histórico aí, né, da sonda JUICE rumo a Júpiter. Finalmente então confirmada aí a abertura dos painéis solares, 11 horas da manhã no horário de Brasília. Então qualquer novidade mais sobre a missão, nós vamos aí então comunicar a vocês nas nossas redes sociais, tanto no Twitter quanto no Instagram. Lembrando que no dia 15, a partir então das 3h30 da manhã, no 3h40 da manhã, no horário de Brasília, nós vamos acompanhar então a nova tentativa de lançamento da missão Transporter 7 com satélite brasileiro. Hein? E às 11h40 da manhã nós vamos acompanhar a desacoplagem da missão CRS-27. Fique com a gente. Nós temos então o nosso canal WillPTV, com WillPTV in Space. Muito obrigado então a todos, mais uma vez então pela sua audiência, pela sua paciência, e siga então ativando o sininho das notificações para não perder nenhuma live, nenhuma transmissão e nenhum vídeo aí da parte então de matemática e de programação em Python. Fique conosco, WillPTV.